Hello, this is Jimmy Mitchell, and we are back with another episode of the Libertarian Uncensored podcast. Let's get right into it. First, we have inside the neo-Nazi trial of Boneface, the man they think made him look bad, from Vice.com by Ninja Lover. And I don't know, maybe this Boneface fellow could all just be makeup. He could just be a fed. You don't really know these days. So, he could just be a victim of entrapment or a fed. I would say more than likely, probably one of those two. But, if you want to think he's a real neo-Nazi, I guess you should be able to think that as well. I just think it's interesting how prior to Trump's election, there were really no Nazis marching on the street and no Antifa as well. But then all of a sudden they just all sprung up overnight. I don't think that's organic at all if you ask me, but that's just my thoughts on the issue. Then we have CTU president defends sending her son to private school from WBAZ.org, another one from Ninja Lover, and it's just another one to show you how hypocritical everyone is when it comes to school choice and a lot of political issues like that, but really school choice in this example. And I think this is a good example as to why, a lot of standards, the only people standards a lot of people have are double standards. Then we have Follow the Science, Implement School Choice from Ruin My Circle Jerk. And that is, I definitely would agree. We should be implementing school choice, these people should be able to get whatever education they want to, and not be forced to only accept one option in public school, I would say. Next, we have What If Vermin Supreme Became President from Monzier Z. And I said, can't believe this guy almost took the LP nomination in 2020. Mandates of any kind, like a toothbrushing mandate, would be unlibertarian. And who does he expect to pay for all the free ponies? He strikes me as a poser just as outrageous things to attention, really not too different from Trump. Still better than Trump or Biden, though. And Bob W. McGrath replied, but Jim, Vermin is the dictator you can trust. And I replied, I used to really like his shtick around 2012-ish, like when he glitter bombed Randall Terry, but in a post-Trump world, he is one of the more subdued politicians these days, I would say. So, I think, political satire these days is really hard to, if, Trump might get a second term soon, so it's really just hard for anyone these days. I think Vermin Supremes really suffer from that, I would say. Then we have, if you're confused why Cons have working on the 15-minute cities, it's going to be a travel ban conspiracy. It's because they are trying to implement travel bans. It's always projection from Clorox, and that's a crosspost from the conservative terrorism subreddit. The unconstitutional plan to stop women from traveling out of state for an abortion explained. And I personally would, I think, I would kind of agree that everyone wants to restrict your travel. It's the thing with the authoritarian left and the authoritarian right is they're pretty much two sides of the same coin. They both want you to restrict your travel for reasons that they justify as being good for you, because they want to force their agenda on you. And that's why I think we shouldn't be justifying it. We should be supporting everyone's right to free travel and going wherever they feel like, I would say, as long as they're not breaking into people's houses at night or otherwise entering and destroying a private property. Then we have the IRS whistleblower at the heart of the Hunter Biden probe took notes. We've got them from Politico.com, by Ninja Lover, and I said, when evidence goes against the out group, it's facts. When it goes against the in group, it's propaganda. You probably still think the Steele dossier is 100% legitimate. That was a response to another comment. Not seeing any reference to Joe Biden, so pretty much irrelevant, right? Like Adam Gray, and I said, it's only relevant when if it's your agenda. Like, what about Devin Archer's testimony? He kind of said, oh, Joe did have some conversations with Hunter about business, but you're never going to hear that from these people because they're just all too into their agenda. They also think that there are only two genders is a fascist talking point, so that's just kind of, very much the average writer. It's if you believed, everyone believed it 10 years ago, now it's fascism, so this is how bad things are getting, when it comes to Reddit, I would say. Then we have Republican Party promoted terrorist activity, making bomb threats target Chicago area public libraries from bcchicago.com by Chi-Town20 across was from the r/Illinois subreddit. And I said, it's Reddit. It blames everything on Republicans, either them or Russia. It's the Republicans. The Reddit just blames everything on the Republicans or the Russia. It's kind of like the guys who always blame the Jews or Israel for everything. It's always the Republicans or Russia. Everyone always has their own boogeyman. I have some too, like the elites, the deep state, the Uniparty. So I'm not gonna say I don't do it, but everyone always has their own boogeyman, and you really see that when it comes to social media, I would say. Then we have the Reddit Twitter last view on free speech from Defiant L's. That's the comment I made on it, and that's the tweet from Andrew Wortman on November 7th, 2018. You might want to reread the First Amendment. It includes freedom of the press as well as freedom as free speech. And then on February 27th, 2022, if the EU can ban Russia Today and Sputnik, we can ban Fox News and OWN. Cool. And I added, they are all propaganda, but so are Reddit and Twitter, and propaganda is free speech. Then we have Mitch McConnell told Mitt Romney that Trump is an idiot who doesn't think when he says things. Book from BusinessInsider.com by Chi-Town20. And I guess I would kind of agree with that. I think Trump just knows he's putting on a show for people, and I would kind of agree. Just kind of says whatever he does to get a reaction from the media, and get egg them on, rile people up. Trump knows what he's doing, I would say, and I personally think he does kind of think when he says things, because he knows how to really rile people up. But I think that's very much the character he's playing that doesn't think when he says things, if you ask me. Then we have jury awards $100,000 to Kentucky couple denied marriage license by ex-county clerk Kim Davis from APnews.com by Donald Key. And I guess that's good. I'm surprised we haven't heard about Kim Davis since like 2015 or 16. So I guess that's good that I think if you're an employee of the state, you should be able to serve. You should be able to do your job, even if you morally disagree with it, because the state, I think, you can make the argument that the state shouldn't be able to discriminatory. Although I could see an argument for a libertarian argument for the other end as well for religious freedom. But then in that case, I think, I'm more for religious freedom for private businesses. I don't know if we should have religious freedom in regards to the general state. I think we should try and keep church and state separate. So that's my thoughts there. Then we have Ignore Unlucky Duck 1013. He's an authoritarian troll LARPing as libertarian by Narrate1. So far he's bashing called out the LGBTQ plus community, a cult, looked Musk, we looked at GOP, opposed the rights, privacy, and freedom movement, called me a commie, should get a free helicopter ride, and defend Pinochet's actions. That's the thing with Reddit, I know it's mostly like a lot of leftist cult, but some of them, some of them people I think do go too far when it comes to pushing back against that. I would say this is a good example of that. I would say. Then we have, this is the control. Democrats and some Republicans are going forward with the internet here. Be vigilant, don't get played, from Hannah Cox on Twitter. And I posted that, and that was her posting a story on from a tweet from Brent Scrub, who posted a story from Euronews. Macron threatens to call social media during protests after unrest, and he the tweet says, source close to the president told AFP that Macron was not advocating a general blackout, but rather being able to temporarily suspend social media as needed. And I think that would be very anti-free speech. And I added, probably only a matter of time before stuff like this into a social credit system comes to the U.S., sadly. I would have probably said the Uniparty instead of, some Democrats and some Republicans, because, they all seem to be complicit, I would say. Then we have, as 2024 looms, mainstreamed by the Republican Party, neo-Nazis are returning to the streets from Vice.com by Chi-Town20, and I said, as 2024 looms, feds are donning their neo-Nazi and Antifa uniforms in order for the media to keep people as engaged and divided as possible. Fix that for you. You know, the ones with face. I think, a lot of the classic face carvings of the ones with face tattoos. I think, I don't know, they may be trap victims, but I also think that could just be makeup. You never know if the feds. Um, what the state really wants is the narrative control, and stuff like this really gives them the means to do that. You know, you never saw stuff like this prior to 2016, and I think there's a very good reason for that, because it's very much not real. It's not organic. I think it's mostly just narrative control and false flags, mostly pretty much all by the feds, I would say. Then we have Canadian School Library removes all books published in 2008 or earlier in new equity-based process exposed from all r/stupid poll. And I said, the same people who wring their hands about banning books will justify this because it's the in-group doing it. You know, soon, people love censorship when it fits their agenda. You know, they don't want you reading anything old because, old is seen as being bad when it comes to the progressive left, because old is inherently a traditional and racist and all that stuff. But, that's why they won't let you read new stuff, because that will be more in line with their agenda, I would say. Next we have CNBC. Before Elon Musk, Twitter rarely used its power to suppress the community. Now it's lobbying against the community to influence laws. And now X is suing California forces will upon the people, from CNBC.com and everybody Chi-Town 20, and that is across from the Elon Musk subreddit. And I said, Tesla man bad, updates to the left, I'm on Reddit, alright. And then Chi-Town responded, tyrannical oligarchs are bad. And I replied, I agree, but there are tons of other ones to go after, but Reddit only goes after the ones that support the narrative. You would never see it go after Soros, for instance. Then we have, can someone please share the most terrible interpretation of this video from Angela McCardle on Twitter? And I posted that, and I said, that's their, what's the woman's name? Their transgender woman who is the chief English language propagandist for the Ukrainian government, Sarah Ashton Cirillo, and I said, typical war propaganda for a bit of an impulse twist. I think it's interesting that Ukraine's chief English language propagandist is transgender. I think that is very much intentional, since transgender stuff is very popular in the West right now, and that is who they're trying to appeal to. Then we have Hunter Biden indicted on gun charges from the WashingtonPost.com by Ninja Lover, and I said the elites always find a way to get out of it. They say that it looks like they got him, but they never really get the elites like Hunter or Donald Trump, I would say. Then we have banned from RSS Libertarian for having uploaded opinion that mods didn't want to read by W Sox, and I agree that's overly authoritarian, and that's why we gotta support free speech, I would say. Then we have an oldie but goodie about right-wing American libertarians from Chi-Town 20, crosspost from the Majority Report subreddit. And John Pavlitz tweeted, in your own words, how would you describe libertarians? And John Spalding replied, house cats. They are convinced of their fierce independence while utterly dependent on a system that they don't appreciate and understand. And I replied with, because if I trust anyone to understand the system, it's got to be Reddit, Twitter, leftist sarcasm. Then we have happy birthday socialist Margaret Higgins Sanger, founder of Planned Parenthood, birth control activist, sex educator, writer, and nurse, woman's liberty advocate. She popularized the term birth control and opened the first birth control clinic in the United States, and that's crosspost from the socialist subreddit and everyone by Chi-Town 20. And I said, notorious racist and eugenicist as well. Look at what group she pushed abortion for the most. I think it was the black. He really wanted the blacks to get the abortions. And then Chi-Town 20 replied, woman. She pushed for only one group to the right to have abortions. That's woman. And I replied that she would be canceled for that day if all the pregnant trans men. So next we have American real estate authoritarian tyrant Tim Gurner telling labor to keep their heads down and respect their capitalist lords. That's never by Chi-Town 20. That's for crosswords from the socialism subreddit. Yeah, I guess that's, I'm not going to act like CEOs don't have an agenda, but, I personally don't think, the workers, I think that they have rights as well, but, I think the workers, they have an agenda as well, and I think that's something people don't get when it comes to all the socialism stuff. A collective having control of something isn't necessarily isn't different from an individual having control of something, because they're all going to be authoritarian. I think because I think we should just let everyone control whatever they want as long as they're not hurting anyone else. I would say. Then we have Ron DeSantis promises extrajudicial killings at the border from NewRepublic.com by Kage blah blah blah. And I definitely would agree that's kind of overly authoritarian, I would say. Next we have policy expert on Russian TV explains why authoritarian Russia supports Trump. Trump is the destroyer. He will start a civil war and destroy America. He's referring to a long-term Russian plan to instigate fighting a civil war in America, destroy the U.S. from the inside by China 20. And that's crosswords from the conservative and sub-president. Yeah, I think, I definitely do think, you have as those actors trying to drum up, conflict in the U.S. Russia also does and supports a lot of BLM and socialist stuff, too, to drum up divisive content, I would say. And so does other countries like China, and I wouldn't be surprised if there are other countries in there, and probably the RNC and DNC, too, to, because they just want people to be all engaged and stuff, yeah. Then we have pro-tyranny advocate and Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders signs law restricting release of her travel security records from APnews.com by Chi-Town 20. And I definitely do think we should be open. I guess you can see a libertarian argument for both sides here. I think everyone has the right to privacy, even if they're a public official. But I guess you have the argument that public officials do need to be held accountable for everything they do. So I guess you can make the libertarian argument for both sides right there. Then we have is Elon trying to get rid of advertisers, subversive libertarians targeting Elon's remaining advertisers using notes. That's from Chi-Town 20, and that's a crossword from the Twitter subreddit. So that's what I think, I think that's interesting, how they noted one music box house I can get, how they could get for cheaper, but that's the thing. I like notes, but I think I think right now the internet is if you're going to speak out against advertisers, that goes against free speech, but the advertisers don't like that, so that's why I think you always have to consider corporate authoritarianism and how we need to support free speech, but how that's not financially viable right now to some extent, I would say. Then we have Trump says his own impeachment led to push for Biden's unintentional admission that the attempt to impeach Biden is based on fraud from thehill.com by Never by Chi 20. And I said, hopefully every president gets an impeachment now. They all probably deserve it. Then we have far-right authoritarian fascist capitalist fanatics gave 17 years for role in Brazil coup attempts from Brazil from theguardian.com and Never by Chi 20. I guess that's all right. I personally. You could argue they violated that, but I guess violent. If there's some violence that's justified, I would say it is violence against the state. So that's something that I think that's important to note as well. But they're just trying to install a dictator. Like I don't think that was violence against the state for good reasons. They just want to control the state, just like the January 6th people, I would say. So that's my thoughts there. And finally, we have the corporate press is the enemy of the people from Tim Pool on Twitter. And I posted that, and I said. That's a link to New York Post story. While else sent a letter urging news outlets to ramp up scrutiny of Biden impeachment inquiry. I said, and my post is arguably corporate press as well, but I agree 100%. The government media, industrial complex is definitely seeking to seize control of the narrative above all else, and we gotta hold them accountable for when they try and do that, I would say. And I think we're gonna wrap it up there. I'll see you guys next episode. Bye.